Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicole and this is Dusty Book Sniffers, and today's video is the announcement of round 2 of our bingo reading challenge and also my TBR for that challenge. So let's get started. Good evening everybody and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for taking some time out of your day while I prattle on about the books that I'm about to read. As I said in the intro, this is the announcement for round 2 of our reading bingo challenge and also my TBR. So I have been busy in the background getting all the prompts together and putting it onto a sheet for you so you can, just a very basic sheet, you can scribble all over it. The link is down below where you can find that. You just click on that and print it off and then you've got it. And I give it to you a little bit earlier from when the first round is about to finish, so you've got time to prepare and get your TBR together. It's just about taking the stress out of it. You'll know what you'll be reading for the next 12 weeks, and we do one prompt a week. All right, so as I said, you have the sheet down below. The link is down there, and it's got all the prompts on it. You've got plenty of room to make notes and all the rest of it. And so yeah, click on that, get yourself that printed off, and then you can organise your TBR as I have today. So I have a nice little pile of books sitting beside me. Now I'm super excited for this one because every single book is off that shelf behind me. That is my physical TBR. There is another shelf behind that door that has 2 shelves on it that are pretty full, and one is doubled with TBR. Now, my last count, I think I was at 135 physical unread books. Okay, and I've got a whole heap on my Kindle and also on my Audible as well. Now, I've done a cross-reference and all the rest of it. My Kindle has 259 titles on it that are unread, and my Audible has 79 unread titles on it, which are not connected to a Kindle. From what I can see, it may be a bit less, it may be a bit more, but when I checked it, that sort of was what it was at. So I need to, when I do my TBR for the bingo prompt, what I'm doing this year is I hunt on my physical shelf first, then I look at my Kindle, then I look at my Audible. Okay, so in that order. And my main goal is for these physical ones to get sorted, because the Kindle ones aren't taking up any space or anything like that. Some of these ones I'll be able to move on to Savannah and they can take up her space. And also I've got a project on the go where I'm going to have a lot more room. So, but the main goal, as I said, is to get these physical books read. So 12 books I managed to pull off for all the prompts. And I basically, I just randomly looked for prompts and I listened for prompts that on other people's readathons and all that sort of stuff. So basically I just sort of hunt around and then I go, oh, that's a good prompt, I'll pull that off and write that down, and then I'll do that over the course of a time, and then eventually I have, you know, I might have 8 or 10 or 5 or whatever, and then I compile them and add a few more to make the 12. All right, so we are here for the TBR to find out what I'm going to be reading. And so I'm just going to do them in numerical order as they are on the sheet. Now, I don't know how these are going to roll up until the week of, because I've got to do the short and then I put it up, yada, yada, yada. You know the drill. If you're here watching me, you're probably a creator as well as a watcher, but you know what the drill is. All right, so I'm going to start with number 1, and the prompt for that is to read a fantasy book. So I've just pulled a Wheel of Time book off the shelf because I don't know when this is going to get rolled up. This prompt's going to come up. Hopefully it'll be early on in the piece. I have read, this is book 5. I'm currently reading book 4. If it rolls up soon, then and I haven't finished book 4, then I'll read that. If not, I'll go on to book 5. How pretty is that cover? I love that cover. So yeah. The Fires of Heaven. Interesting. I haven't looked at any of the titles, but you can see there's a big gaping hole where it came out of. And this one has 892 pages I've just seen, so it's got a fair few pages. These are all Chunkster books, and I'm reading these along with Sydney from Reading with Sid. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting that one. So that is the fantasy book that I'm going to go for. I may as well, because I've got a ton of them, and it is an epic fantasy after all. And now I've got to figure out where I'm going to put all these books. Okay, the next one is to read a book you consider to be a horror. Now, the reason I've put it there, considered to be a horror, is because horror means different things to different people. So yes, you can get the blood and gore ones where things are getting ripped off and people are dying left, right and centre. Some other people that are not into that sort of stuff might think a psychological thriller is more close to a horror for them. Then you've got classic horrors and all that sort of stuff. So I've decided, because I'm doing the Friday Classic series, I decided that I am going to read The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and there's a few other stories in here as well. I'm not 100% sure what stories are in here, but the main story I'm going to be reading is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and that's by Robert Louis Stevenson. And I'm looking forward to this. Has been sitting on my shelf for a while. I've been looking forward to reading this, and I was going to leave it till October, but hey, I didn't have anything because I class horror as horror, so I thought I'd go with a classic horror instead. But there's lots of thrillers on there that I could have probably used for that prompt, but I didn't. Okay, the next one is read a book with a person on the cover. So I'm going with Stacey Abrams' While Justice Sleeps. This is a political thriller. It's not normally my bag, but when I opened this up out of the Book Grocer box, this book, and I've done a little bit further research on it, the author of this is actually a politician, and so I'm thinking, if a person is a politician, they'll know what they're sort of writing about, and it might have some good intrigue and stuff in there. So I thought, you know what, it has a person on the cover. I have many books that have people on the cover, but I decided to go with this one. Basically, a legendary Washington judge, Wynne, falls into a coma and puts his law clerk, Avery, in control, and Avery's world is turned upside down because Justice Wynne had a secret, one that nobody wants to come out. So it sounds like a bit of a mystery, intrigue sort of stuff, and as I said, when I did research on the author, and I believe this is her debut novel too, so I don't mind a debut novel, and as I said, when I did research, seemed like she knew what she was talking about. All right, number 4 is to read a book with an animal on the cover. Now, believe it or not, I did not have anything really up there that had an animal on the cover. But I found this one, and it has we could call that a crow, I guess. I did have ones with dragons and stuff on them, but I'm not reading those. I'm not their epic fantasies, and I'm not starting another series just yet, so I didn't want to go with that one. And I'm still reading the Life Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, and they have birds on the flags and dragons as well, so I could have put that in, but this one's been sort of catching my eye when I've been walking past the bookshelf. So Wild and Wicked Things, I picked up from a local shop here. In the world of the 1920s decadence and excess, Frances May's irresistible debut weaves a dazzling tale of dark magic, romance and murder. So that's all I really needed to know. It seemed like a really interesting book, and it has all the things on it that I like. So pentagrams, all that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I don't want to read much more than that because it wrecks the book for me. Anybody that's been here for a while knows that. All right, next one is to read a new to you female author. Now, I've never read anything by this female author. I know who she is. I know what book she's written. I've wanted to read her books for a while. I have several of them. I think I've got 2 others on my shelf, and that is Emily Henry. I've seen lots of people read these ones, and I just closed my eyes and pulled off the first one. I didn't even pick up which one I should read. I maybe should read her very first one. Maybe I should read her debut novel. I don't know, but anyway, this is the one that I've picked up. When I get to it, I may change my mind and go to her debut novel. But this was on my shelf. I don't know anything about it. I think it came out last year, didn't it? 2022? Yes, 2022 this came out. And I think this was on my 22 books in 22 to read, and I never got to it. So it's getting read now. Nora is a cutthroat literary agent. At the top of her game, her whole life is books. Charlie is an editor with a gift for creating bestsellers. He is Nora's work nemesis. Nora has been through enough breakups to know she's the one men date before finding their happily ever after. Okay, that sounds a bit interesting. Cool. All right. So she's like jilted all the time. Always, what is it? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Prompt 6 is to read the next book in a series that you have started but you have not finished yet. So I am going to read The Merciless Ones. This is book 2 in a duology from The Gilded Ones. Okay, so The Gilded Ones, it just says on the front, outcast by blood, warriors by choice. And I think the blurb's inside this one. So Decca lives in fear of the blood ceremony that will determine whether she can become a member of her village. If she bleeds red, she will belong. But on the day of the ceremony, her blood runs cold, the colour of impurity of a demon. And it just goes on about that, and there's a lot of magic and all that sort of stuff, and there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that thrown in as well. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm probably going to end up reviewing both of these together as a series, because really they're probably ones that you should read back to back because the way it ended, and I'm more than likely going to read this that week when this spins up. I've got this on audio, so I will listen to this and then read this, and then I'll do a review on it. But the Merciless one is prompt 6. And I don't, because I read it and I sort of was doing other things, the Gilded Ones, and like I sort of remember the story, but I sort of don't either because I've probably read 60 books since I read that one. All right, the next one is to read a book written for children, and I am going for Amari and the Knight Brothers. I am actually reading this to my granddaughter via video, so when it comes up I can actually, like, I haven't started reading it yet, so when this rolls up I will start reading it and recording it for her, because she's having a little bit of trouble, not with reading as such, but finding motivation to read. And I've been reading, I've got a private channel where I just read the books, and it's no one can see it except for her, and she's actually loving it, and her mum said that she's starting to look at books a little bit differently. All right, so that one I'm actually looking forward to. I've seen lots of people been reading this and they said it's absolutely fabulous, so I'm really looking forward to it. And if you, I don't know if you'll see it, no, you probably won't. Just up the top there of my bookshelf is the book 2 to it, because I've got a box set. So for prompt number 8, read out of your comfort zone, I had 2 choices here. I could go sci-fi or memoir. I've chosen to go with memoir, and this is called Breaking the Spell. It's by Jane Stork, and My Life as a Rajneeshi, I think is how you pronounce it, and the long journey back to freedom. So I don't normally do too well with memoirs and whatnot, but I'm going to give this one a go. It sounds really interesting. So yeah, she grew up in post-war Western Australia, embarking on the familiar path of marriage, children. It seems like she had a normal life until she enters into her 30s, and her life started to unravel. She sought answers at a meditation center and quickly became devoted to the Indian guru Bhagwan Sri Rajesh. And I'm pretty sure he was, if memory serves me correctly, I think he was around like the orange people that they used to say followed him. Anyway, yeah, and it just goes on to that. So it'll be very interesting to see where this story goes. And I got this time last year at a book fair that we had here. So I need to read it. And then if it's no good, I can get rid of it. All right, prompt 9 is read an author that is older than you. And I've gone for an old faithful. I've gone for Danielle Steele. She is very much older than me. And these are just like old friends. This one is called Betrayal. I don't really need to tell you what they're about. Like, there's usually a tragedy. They rise above it, and then it ties up in a nice little bow. Someone dies, some sort of tragedy happens, and all the rest of it. This one has a Tally Jones. She is a Hollywood legend, an ambitious and passionate film director who creates award-winning productions, but has little interest in the glitz and glamour of Los Angeles, instead focusing intently on her work and family. She has close, loving relationship with her daughter, her elderly father, and Hunter Lloyd, her co-producer and partner of 4 years. So, and it just goes on for there. However, but yeah, so that is Betrayal by Danielle Steele. I am endeavouring to read all of her, a lot of her books this year. I'm incorporating more romance into my life, and so she's like an old friend. I used to read them a lot when I was younger, so I thought, why not? why not read her entire catalogue? And she has something like 140 books. Crazy! I mean, if I just read nothing but Danielle Steele all year, that would be really boring. So I'm just sort of popping them in. They don't actually go on my TBR. Just when I feel like reading something different, I'm just pulling them off the shelf. And I did that just a couple of weeks ago. So yeah. All right. The next one is read a book that features something you would like to do. Okay. Now, I could read a craft book and then I'd be read it in 5 minutes, but that is not challenging enough for me. So I went by the cover. Now, I would like to travel and I would like to go to some islands, and I would like to be sipping beside the pool a pina colada or some sort of tropical drink. That's what I want to do. Today, when I pulled this off, that's what I felt like doing. I want to go off and travel and be somewhere tropical. Okay, so secluded possibly as well. So anyway, I looked at all the covers and I picked this by the cover, and then I flipped it over and it, yeah, all right. So I remember opening this out of the Advent book box at Christmas time. So this is a relatively new, and I don't think, yes, this was book 20 that I opened up. Okay, so this is actually a thriller. Okay, now I don't want to do what's in the book. I just want to travel to that island because that looks pretty picturesque to me. So you wake up on a beautiful secluded beach. The sun bakes down. A shimmering ocean stretches out into the horizon. The island is far from home, as you could imagine. Okay, so that sounds really good to me, and that's where I want to be. I want to travel, and I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, because then it goes, yet this is no ordinary escape, and it goes on to tell you about the book. So I'm just going to leave it there. It's got the island on it. I want to travel to an island, a tropical place. We're not going to look at the storm up the top. We're just looking at the island, okay? That's where we're at. So that's what I'm going to read for that prompt, because I want to travel. The next one is to read a book with food on the cover. So this one actually makes the prompt quite well. So there's a pot on it, there's a fish on it, and it has the word food on it. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure what this book is about. I just really like, I've been really drawn to this sort of fabric and book covers and dishes and all that sort of stuff lately. So this one is called The Language of Food by Annabelle Abes, and two women on a mission to put poetry on a plate. So England, 1835. So I do know it's an historical fiction, and I'm only going on what my daughter said to me because I picked it up and I showed her. She goes, oh, I think that's historical fiction. When Eliza Anton is told her publisher to write a cookery book instead of poetry she loves, she refuses. But after her father is forced to flee the country, Eliza must earn a living. Despite never having cooked, she is determined to learn. She hires a young, destitute Anne Kirby to help in the kitchen, and together they discover the mutual talent and passion for cooking and for recipe writing. But Anne finds a voice of her own, and their radical friendship starts to fray. Apparently, it is based on a true story of Britain's first domestic goddess. The Language of Food is a scrumptious piece of a novel about the women who changed the course of cookery and writing forever. Well, there you go. That sounds interesting. So it's based on a true story. Okay. And it seems like it's historical fiction. And it's pretty big writing in it too. Like, yeah. Anyway, it's got a few hundred pages in it. It's got nearly 400 pages in it. Just over 400 pages. So yeah, I thought that met the price. Like, yeah, it's about food too. So there you go. I just was drawn to the cover. I bought it for no other reason than the cover. All right. The next one, which is our last prompt, number 12, read a book by a New Zealand author. All right. So I wasn't sure that I was going to have anything on my bookshelf by a New Zealand author, because most of the stuff I've got on here are American, British, a couple of European, and then there's like some Asian authors on there and a few other countries around the world. But I didn't think that I had anything from New Zealand. Apparently I did. I remembered reading The Tattoos of Auschwitz by Heather Morris, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's from New Zealand, but she resides here in Australia, but she is a native New Zealander. So I went on a little bit of a hunt, and I'm like, yes, she is. And I have the book too from that series. So she wrote, as I said, I don't know where it is. It must be behind that glass door there. She wrote The Tattoos of Auschwitz, and there was a character in there called Silka. And so her story was touched on in that first book, but it didn't go into depth. So this is giving us her full scope of her story and how she got to where she was and all that sort of stuff, because in the first book she didn't have her head shaved, and she was in a relationship with one of the officers at the camp, and she worked in the office and she had certain privileges and all the rest of it. But this is telling the story of why she did the things she did, and she actually served time for being a Nazi sympathizer. She spent time in jail. That's how, and you know that from the first book. So this is going into more detail of her story. It is a fictional story, like it's embellished a little bit and whatnot, from my understanding of the first one. There are little snippets in there, but there's a little bit of over dramatization. So another historical fiction, but another one that I'll be reading off my shelf. And I do believe that this is on Scribd as well as an audio. So if I don't have time to read it, I can always listen to it on that. I mean, I wouldn't purchase it because I've already got it, but yeah. And I finished the Tattoo of Auschwitz and had to have this straight away. I ordered it straight away. So yeah, so basically I'm looking forward to reading that. But they are the 12 books that I'm going to be reading for the bingo challenge. So you will get to see what these books are about as we go along. As I said, I will probably end up slipping them into weekly vlogs and stuff like that. But you will no doubt get to see what my thoughts are on all of these books. The only one that I'm going to be doing different is this one here, because as I said, I've read about 60 books since I've read this one, and I've only just got this one. So I want to just revisit this one again. I'll already know the basics of the story, and I'll be able to have a refresher. I probably won't listen to the entire thing, beginning, middle, end. That'll give me a general idea of what's going on, and then I can get into it. So I am so excited that I got all these books off my shelf. Are you proud of me? I'm proud of me. Anyway, that is my bingo TBR for round 2. As I said, if you want your sheet, it's down below, and every week on the short shelf at 7 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, there will be a short that goes up, and you will be able to see what the prompt is, and then you can read for the week. Well, that is it from me today. I do appreciate you being here. Hopefully you're going to join in the fun of the round 2 bingo reading challenge. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on the prompts, and if you've got any ideas for prompts as well, I'm happy to hear about those. Leave them down the bottom. And have you read any of these books? Let me know. Are they a yay or nay? But as I said, that's it from me today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. I hope that wherever you are, you're getting some pages turned, and as always,